Most men walk through life blind, predictable, easily led. They chase, they beg, and they wonder why they end up disrespected, manipulated, and alone. You've felt it, haven't you? That gut-wrenching realization you're playing by rules someone else wrote, always on the back foot, losing the emotional chess game before it even begins. This isn't about being nice or understanding, it's about power. It's about understanding the raw, uncomfortable truths of human nature and mastering the mental game that governs all relationships. Today we peel back the layers of female behavior, not with fluffy platitudes, but with the cold, calculated precision of a Machiavelli. We're going to expose the subtle levers of influence, the hidden traps, and the ultimate masculine strategy that separates the sheep from the lions. If you're tired of being a pawn, if you're ready to reclaim your respect and forge an unshakable presence, then listen closely. This isn't for the faint of heart. This is how you become a master of manipulation, a truly high-value man, not a victim of it. To fail to understand these principles, and you'll remain exactly where you are, a man who lets life happen to him instead of making it happen for him. Most men operate on instinct or outdated chivalry, making them easy prey. They are neither fox nor lion, but rather sheep, ripe for the shearing. Machiavelli, the architect of strategic power, didn't just write about princes, he laid bare the blueprint for dominating any domain, including the intricate battlefield of human connection. He taught us that a ruler, and by extension, a man who commands his world, must embody two fundamental archetypes, the cunning fox and the formidable lion. The fox is the master of perception, the one who navigates the psychological warfare unseen by others. This is where your emotional control becomes paramount. You must develop the astute eye to spot the subtle tests, the veiled provocations, the emotional traps that women, often unconsciously, lay before you. The fox reads intentions, deciphers unspoken signals, and identifies the levers of manipulation others attempt to pull. He understands the mental game is won not by brute force, but by superior intellect and an almost preternatural foresight. He doesn't react, he anticipates. This isn't about paranoia, it's about strategic awareness, it's about building an internal radar that screams trap before you stumble into it, preserving your respect and preventing unnecessary energy drain. This is the defensive aspect, the intelligence-gathering phase of your masculine strategy. Without this foxy foresight, you will constantly be outmaneuvered, always a step behind, leaving yourself vulnerable to every slight and challenge. I wonder why you're being tested, why your boundaries are being pushed, completely blind to the subtle chess moves being made against you. But perception alone is not enough. A fox without the lion's roar is merely a clever victim. The lion, on the other hand, is pure, unadulterated power. He embodies the will to act, the courage to enforce boundaries, and the raw, intimidating presence that commands respect without uttering a single threat. When the fox has identified the trap, the lion steps in to dismantle it decisively. This means having the conviction to walk away, the strength to say no without apology, and the gravitas to make your presence undeniable. It's about projecting an aura that declares, "I am not to be trifled with." This is where your high-value man status truly solidifies. The lion doesn't negotiate his value, he asserts it. He doesn't beg for attention, he commands it. This isn't about being aggressive. It's about being unequivocally firm, about having the fortitude to scare off disrespect, to make others think twice before challenging your domain. It's the masculine strategy of deterrence, the ultimate display of self, the true master of influence, the one who truly understands manipulation as a tool for self-preservation and advancement, seamlessly blends these two archetypes. He is a fox in awareness and a lion in execution. He uses his emotional control to remain detached while observing, and his inherent power to act with authority when necessary. This dual nature is what allows him to shape his reality, to dictate the terms of engagement, rather than being dictated to. He doesn't just play the mental game, he writes the rules. This isn't theoretical, it's practical application in the arena of your daily interactions. We're talking about tangible shifts in how you're perceived, how you're treated, and ultimately, how much control you exert over your own destiny. The question then becomes, how do you cultivate this potent duality within yourself, transforming from a man who reacts into a man who orchestrates? The question then becomes, how do you cultivate this potent duality within yourself, transforming from a man who reacts into a man who orchestrates? The first pillar in this edifice of influence, the very bedrock of the fox's wisdom, lies in mastering the art of framing. This isn't about issuing direct commands or making overt demands. It's about strategically setting the stage, designing the environment such that the most palatable choices for others are precisely the ones that lead to your desired outcome. This is Machiavelli's genius applied to daily interactions, an intricate understanding of human psychology, an uncanny ability to anticipate reactions, and the foresight to construct scenarios where the path of least resistance for others is the very path you wish them to tread. It's a form of psychological judo, where you leverage their inherent momentum, their natural inclinations, to guide them effortlessly toward your objective. This is not about forcing, it's about shaping. To execute this with precision, your emotional control must be absolute. Any flicker of impatience, any hint of frustration, any display of overt desire on your part, and the illusion of choice collapses. The high-value man maintains an unshakable composure, a serene detachment, even amidst the most volatile emotional landscapes. This isn't coldness, it's calculated neutrality. It's the ability to observe the emotional currents in others without being swept away by them yourself. When you achieve this level of self-mastery, you gain an unparalleled advantage in the mental game. You become adept at identifying their core desires, their underlying fears, their hidden vulnerabilities. Armed with this insight, you can then craft your controlled options with surgical precision, making them irresistible. This is where true power resides, in your capacity to perceive and then subtly manipulate the psychological levers of human behavior. Consider a practical application. You need a team member to take on a challenging, time-consuming task. Instead of imposing it, you frame two alternatives, both equally beneficial to your overarching goal, but presented as their choice. Given the current workload, would you prefer to spearhead the critical client outreach for Project Alpha, which requires significant independent strategic planning, or would you rather take the lead on the intricate data analysis for Project Beta, demanding meticulous attention to detail? Both options are demanding, yet by offering a choice, you engage their autonomy. They feel empowered, believing they've made a decision, even though both paths lead precisely where you intended. This is a sophisticated form of manipulation, yes, but it's manipulation rooted in respect for their agency, a masculine strategy that fosters compliance without resentment. It strengthens your position as a leader who guides, rather than dictates. The depth of this strategy hinges on your understanding of the other person's deeper motivations. What truly drives them? What do they aspire to? What inconveniences do they seek to avoid? If a subordinate values visibility and career progression, frame the option that offers them a platform to shine, even if it's the exact difficult assignment you needed to delegate. If a partner prioritizes efficiency, present your suggestion in terms of streamlined processes or time saved. You are not lying. You are curating the presentation of truth, aligning your objectives with their self-interest. This is the essence of the fox's cunning. It's an advanced form of emotional intelligence deployed as a strategic asset in the psychological warfare of human interaction. This continuous calibration of your approach, this constant reading of the room solidifies your status as a high-value man. However, cultivating this profound level of influence requires an even deeper dive into self. Before you can expertly read and subtly guide others, you must first possess an unwavering understanding of your own internal landscape, your emotional triggers, your biases, your own desires. Any sliver of desperation, any overt attachment to a specific outcome will reveal your hand and compromise your position. The true orchestrator operates from a place of detached abundance. He doesn't desperately need things to go his way. He simply prefers them to, and leverages a refined masculine strategy to make that preference a tangible reality. This subtle yet profound shift in mindset is the crucible where true influence is forged. It's the art of allowing others to choose the path you've meticulously prepared, making them believe it was their own inspired idea. It secures your power without overt conflict, ensuring compliance without animosity. This is the heart of the mental game, always being several moves ahead, orchestrating outcomes not through brute force, but through a superior understanding of the human psyche. But what happens when the chessboard is disrupted, when your carefully constructed options are rejected outright? What then, when faced with direct resistance, or when the situation demands a more overt display of your boundaries? This is precisely where the rubber meets the road, where the theoretical frameworks of influence are tested by the raw currents of human interaction. When your preordained path is met with defiance, or your subtle guidance falls flat, the true master doesn't double down with overt force. No, he understands that power isn't about forcing compliance, it's about making compliance the only logical, or even desirable, option. Here, the Machiavellian principle of necessity comes into play. If they don't value your presence when it's freely given, they must be made to feel its absence. This is the calculated withdrawal, the strategic removal, of your availability. It's a deliberate act of scarcity, not born of petulance but of a profound masculine strategy. You don't argue, you don't plead, and most importantly, you do not let your ego bleed. Your emotional control must be absolute. Any hint of frustration or desperation dissolves your influence like acid on fine silk. Instead, you step back, not in defeat, but in tactical retreat. You cease to be readily available. Your response time lengthens. Your presence becomes less predictable, less assured. This isn't an act of manipulation in the crude sense, but a sophisticated application of the mental game. You are not creating a desire that didn't exist. You are revealing a latent value that was obscured by their perception of your constant presence. This move is designed to recalibrate their internal value meter. When faced with your strategic withdrawal, the other party is forced to confront the void your absence creates. They begin to project their own desires, their own needs, onto that void, This is where you leverage the human tendency to chase what is scarce. The high-value man knows that respect is not granted. It is commanded through consistent demonstrations of self-worth and an unwavering commitment to one's own standards. By setting this boundary, a boundary of your own time, energy, and presence, you unequivocally communicate your worth. You are teaching them, without a single word of accusation, the cost of taking you for granted. This isn't about childish games. It's psychological warfare on a subtle high-stakes level. It's about cultivating an aura of indispensability, not through constant pursuit, but through the judicious application of absence. This move transforms you from a commodity into a coveted resource. It forces them to internally justify seeking you out, to reconsider their initial rejection, because they are now operating from a position of perceived loss. The absence creates a vacuum, and the human mind abhors a vacuum. They will fill it, often with thoughts of what they're missing. This is the essence of generating need where none explicitly existed before. It's a powerful lesson in self-respect, and a masterclass in the nuanced art of subtle manipulation for the purpose of securing your power and enhancing respect. But what happens when this calculated absence works its magic, and they inevitably begin to re-engage, seeking to bridge the gap you've strategically created? When they inevitably begin to re-engage, seeking to bridge the gap you've strategically created, this is not the moment to leap. This is the critical juncture where the third lesson of the fox comes into play, leveraging the human need for consistency. They've made the first small commitment by reaching out. Do not overplay it. Acknowledge it with measured composure, demonstrating your continued emotional control. The high-value man doesn't chase, he invites pursuit. Your response, though welcoming, must retain that subtle edge of scarcity, reminding them that while the door isn't closed, it also isn't wide open for casual entry. Now, the objective is to secure progressively larger, yet still seemingly minor, commitments from them. This is the essence of the foot-in-the-door technique, a foundational principle in psychological manipulation. Begin with small asks, a quick coffee, a brief phone call, a simple favor that requires minimal effort on their part but represents an investment of their time and energy. Each small agreement, each seemingly insignificant act of compliance, serves as a psychological anchor. Once a person commits to a small position, even a verbal one, their internal drive for cognitive consistency kicks in. They don't want to perceive themselves as fickle or unreliable. Their brain will subtly, almost imperceptibly begin to justify that initial commitment, making it easier to agree to the next, slightly larger one. This is where the Machiavellian understanding of human nature becomes your most potent weapon. You're not forcing them. You're gently guiding them down a path of their own making. This isn't overt command. It's subtle, strategic influence. The masculine strategy here is to create a scenario where their own internal psychological mechanisms compel them to continue investing in the interaction. You are the architect of their self-perception, helping them to see themselves as consistent, engaged, and ultimately, invested in you. Every step they take, every small commitment they make, reinforces their perception of you as someone worth investing in. It builds psychological momentum, a domino effect of compliance. This isn't about trickery in a malicious sense, but rather a sophisticated form of psychological manipulation designed to secure your power and earn genuine respect. You are teaching them, through their own actions, that you are a valuable entity. That interaction with you is a privilege, not a given. Your unwavering emotional control through this process is paramount. Any sign of eagerness or desperation shatters the illusion of the high-value man who sets the terms. This continuous investment, fueled by their own need for internal consistency, subtly shifts the power dynamic. They are actively choosing to expend resources, time, thought, effort on you. This process makes it increasingly difficult for them to back out, as doing so would create significant cognitive dissonance. They would have to rationalize why they invested so much in something they then walked away from, and the human mind prefers to avoid such uncomfortable internal conflicts. This mental game ensures their continued engagement, deepening their investment, and solidifying your position. This isn't just about getting what you want. It's about recalibrating the entire relationship dynamic on terms that serve your long-term objectives for power and respect. But what happens when their consistency becomes ingrained, when they are fully committed and invested? What is the final trick to truly cement your influence and ensure their unwavering loyalty? You've built their investment, they're committed. Now, you must fortify your position with an impenetrable defense, a defense that simultaneously projects power and commands respect without resorting to overt aggression. This is where the wisdom of Machiavelli converges with the shrewdness of the modern high-value man. This isn't about fear. It's about establishing an undeniable truth about your boundaries, a truth that makes challenging them unthinkable. This is trick 4. Setting boundaries. No one wants to test the masterful fusion of the fox's cunning and the lion's strength. Imagine a subtle but unyielding tripwire, not a trap, but a clear indicator. When crossed, the consequence isn't a violent explosion, but a predictable, perhaps even quiet, withdrawal of access, value, or your presence. This requires impeccable emotional control. No anger, no lectures, just a calm, firm, and immediate enforcement of the established rule. This isn't about emotional outbursts, it's about strategic disengagement. They learn that certain behaviors simply lead to the cessation of benefits. This is a profound form of masculine strategy. The fox sets the wire. The lion ensures its integrity. The lion part isn't a roar. It's the quiet, unyielding certainty that the consequence will occur every single time, without exception. This precision in enforcement, devoid of emotional baggage, is a powerful form of manipulation. Yes, but it's manipulation that builds genuine respect. When your boundaries are clear, consistent, and enforced without drama, you communicate a powerful message. Your time, your energy, your attention are valuable commodities, not to be trifled with. You are not reactive. You are simply predictable in your strength. This mental game creates an environment where challenging you becomes illogical, even costly. The cost isn't just external, it's internal. They know that testing your limits will result in them losing something valuable: your presence, your approval, the very connection they've already invested in. This predictability transforms potential conflict into self-regulation. People learn that the easiest, most rewarding, the path is to operate within the defined parameters. It's a psychological warfare tactic where your opponent chooses to surrender without a fight, not out of fear, but out of rational self-interest. They respect your power because you demonstrate it through calm, consistent action, not through threats or empty words. This is the hallmark of a high-value man, someone whose boundaries are so clear, so consistently enforced, that they become an invisible force field, respected by all who approach. It's a subtle dance of influence, where your strength lies in your unwavering resolve and the clarity of your non-negotiables. It's about leveraging the human tendency to seek comfort and avoid pain. You make it painful to cross you, not by inflicting suffering but by removing the reward. This builds a deep, almost unconscious respect. You've taught them the rules of engagement, and they've learned that violating them only leads to a diminished return for themselves. This mastery of emotional control, applied consistently, ensures that your power grows, not through domination, but through magnetic influence. The mental game is in making them believe that adhering to your boundaries is in their best interest. This isn't about imposing your will through brute force. It's about demonstrating the logical consequences of their actions, making them choose to respect your terms. The high-value man doesn't beg for respect. He calibrates his environment so that respect is the natural, inevitable outcome of interaction. This masculine strategy fundamentally rewires the dynamic. It's a quiet declaration of sovereignty. But what happens when you've solidified your position to this degree? What's the next step in escalating this influence? Pushing the boundaries of what they're willing to do for you. So, have you ever been subtly manipulated, perhaps even in a situation where you thought you had the upper hand, only realizing it was a well-played mental game much later? Share your experiences below. To truly master emotional control and leverage your inherent power, subscribe and hit that notification bell. It's the only way you'll continue to learn the masculine strategies that most men never discover. Next, uncover how even Machiavelli's principles can solidify your respect and cement your status as a high-value man. Until then, stay sharp.